Well, guys, it's almost the end of the season, but it's the end of the road for our old ball coach, Neil Brown. But what we're going to get after today is we're going to talk about who are the favorites, who are guys that are totally out of the question, and we're going to talk a little bit about bowling. What's going to happen with the Mountaineers in the bowl season? So Joey's with me tonight. We're going to get after it just like we used to. So here we go.
I've got an itch I can't scratch, I'm missing a piece that completes a whole part of me, an open wound scar to see. Everybody come here, gather round, welcome to the freak show, the best in town. What the hell's wrong with me? I don't get along with anybody, honestly. I've been living in my own head, constantly wait. All these thoughts are too negative. I don't wanna get lost in the sedative. Gotta show them what I got, I'm competitive. You know I'm about to go off, I won't let them win. I'll take a stab, I wanna chase the bag. I wanna weigh, I can change all the things I lack. I gotta face the facts, I got a taste in that. Got me obsessed with the rest, I got an itch to scratch. No way. I'll give up everything if I can see my dreams. In my brain, running from the past, wanna escape my pain. I just wanna be a better person, I deserve this, I just wanna break these chains. Always destined for greatness, true to myself, I never fake it. Seen too many ones that I so they get famous. And when I say the truth, most really can't take it. In spite of everything I've been through, I'ma make it. Fake friends, but on my downfall is toxic. Day one, started the outlaws for profit. Now all I do is write verses, no talking. All I do is put the work in, no option. This was everything I ever wanted. Created a legacy off of me just being honest. And the fake ones hate, but it's all to no avail. They wanna see me lose, but you know I never fail.
I'll give up everything, daunting if I can see my dream. Cause I'll do anything, want a reality. I'll give up everything, daunting if I can see my dreams. Cause I'll do anything, want a reality. Don't let go. I'll make things right. Cause I'll do anything, want a reality.
Well, Joey,
Fired up now.
how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited, man. I have not been this excited in a long time. The last time I was this concerned about our next football hire and this excited was when Don Nealon retired. I knew we had lost a legendary coach, and he was one of the best coaches of all time, not just in history of West Virginia, but really in the history of college football. Don Nealon was an amazing coach. So when Don Nealon retired and we were hiring our next coach, I was really, really excited at knowing that they were coming in and going to replace a coach like Don Nealon, so they wasn't going to have to build a lot. They would have to get their players in there and maybe have a down season or two, but that after that, they wouldn't have to build a lot to build the culture and get everything going. That's the way it is right now. Look, I was really worried after Dana Holgerson left of what our next coach is going to run into, and then look what Neil Brown ran into. We gave him a lot of time, but Neil Brown has done a lot of things right at West Virginia. We have a great culture up there. We have great players. He's done a fantastic job with all of that, but he just didn't get it right out on the field. Couldn't get the coaching right on Saturdays during game day, and so unfortunately he had to go. Man, are you excited about this list of names that you're seeing coming out?
I'm going to tell you why I'm really excited, because number one, if I look back to, I remember the transition from Don Nealon, and it was tumultuous. There was no, it had been like over a generation of people had went through as fans.
But
And they kind of, some of the old guard remembered West Virginia being bad, but most of the kids and the adults that were fans in 2000 were hanging on to the fact that 89, 93 undefeated seasons, consistently competing for a Big East championship, and that bar was high. And when Rich Rod came in and just, oh my gosh, let's talk about Rich Rod. Let's talk about that time frame. I was going to talk about the bowls, but we're going to talk about coaching right now, because I'll tell you what, Rich Rod, guys, he went 32-5. And to think about that, if I were to tell you, Joey, I'm going to give you a ball coach, and your record for the next, 4 years is going to be 32-5.
Yeah, I would be really excited. Now, it took him a couple of years to get it under him, though. Get it built. But at the same time, when you look at what we've got in Morgantown right now, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, and I'm getting ready to invite him onto the show. I had somebody that called me literally just about 4 minutes before we went live to tell me, hey, Texas A&M's 5-star quarterback just hit the transfer portal, and everybody in Texas is saying he's headed to West Virginia. Now, I don't know how true that is. He's reading Twitter and reading everybody down there, the fans, and this 5-star recruit that's Texas A&M quarterback. Now, I don't know how true it is. I'm going to invite him on. It was Will Forbes. He was on here with us the other night, but Will called me and was telling me that, and I'm getting ready to send him the link right now, so give me just 1 second. We'll see if we get him on here.
Rich Rod had a rough start, because I remember him losing like 15-9 to Cincinnati. And that was Cincinnati that was garbage. They hadn't had their success that they had recently. Well, 4 or 5 years ago, they're pretty good. But I was despondent. But that was just a few years into his tenure. But when he turned the corner, he was a coach from 2001 to 07. If you don't remember, if you're too young. But, Rich Rod, when he left abruptly, and he wanted, after the Pitt loss, he wanted more money for his assistants, and he wanted the program to go in a certain direction. So I think it was Ed Pastelong was the athletic director at the time. I guess they didn't see eye to eye, but Rich Rod comes with baggage. There's a lot of alumni that don't like him.
Right.
Now, mind you, Joey, there's one alumni, Ken Kendrick. We're not talking 1 or 2 or 3 billion, like $10 billion. This cat owns the Diamondbacks baseball club. He is even when he was at Michigan, he's a huge supporter of Rich Rod. And, you might lose some fans or some alumni or some donors, but we're not talking about some cat who's leasing a BMW and given WVU $2,500 a year. This is a huge donor. Loves Rich Rod. The players, Pat McAfee, he's no slouch. Huge influencer. I mean, guys, if you don't know who Pat McAfee is, you shouldn't be watching this show, because not only was he a kicker and a punter for the Indianapolis Colts, he has a huge YouTube channel on ESPN Game Day with Nick Saban, and he's been tweeting and on his show. I watched his show today. I usually just watch snippets just to kind of figure out if anything's going to be dropped, anything's going to be leaked.
But let me tell everybody real quick what I've heard today, so we can bounce this information off of everybody and just give them what I heard. So, right after Rim Baker's press conference, literally, it hadn't even got put up on YouTube yet, right? It was just right after his press conference. It hadn't even been put up there yet. I got a phone call that said that Jimbo Fisher would be the next head coach at West Virginia University. This is from somebody that I trust, that I got this phone call. And I was like, okay. And then I messaged somebody else that I trust that's got a lot of people right there on the inside at West Virginia University. I messaged them, And I said, I'm hearing Jimbo Fisher could be the next coach, may possibly be the next coach at West Virginia University. Have you heard this too? That it's pretty much done deal. And he messaged me back and said, yes. That's all he said.
Yeah.
Then he messaged me a little bit later and said, I won't say who, but somebody in Jimbo Fisher's family, and I won't say who because it could give it away. Somebody in Jimbo Fisher's family actually messaged him earlier this morning, and stuff. So, yeah, it may be that it's a done deal. I don't know. I don't know. Just how rumors can fly around when all this stuff gets started. So I messaged Coos and I was like, "Hey, Coos, did you hear anything?" And Coos like, "No, I haven't heard anything about that." And he said, "Ren's doing a press conference right now." I said, "Right, it just ended because it literally just ended." And he said he didn't say anything during it, and I said, "No, not really. Not about that at all." Now, I have also said, and I said this when we was live the other day, if Jimbo Fisher's the head coach, I felt like it would be a quick hire. If Jimbo's going to be the man,
right?
Why wait? You can understand if you're going to get the guy from Penn State, the defensive or offensive coordinator of Penn State. I'm not even going to try to say his name, or the defensive coordinator of Georgia, or you're going to go out and grab Barry Odom. And you can understand putting him off, or even Rich Rod, because he's got a conference championship game coming up, right? And which was something that Neil Brown, or not Neil Brown, Ren Baker alluded to today. He said, we've got coaches that are coaching conference championships that are in the running here, right? So that tells you that Jimbo Fisher's, or not, Rich Rodriguez is there in that talk at West University. I'm just trying to figure out, wonder which way they're leaning. And from everything I'm seeing, everything I'm hearing, I don't know how true this is about the Texas A&M quarterback, but if that's true, if that Texas A&M quarterback has hit the transfer portal, and I wish I could remember his name, and I've sent him the link, and I hope he comes on here with us. I hope that's true, and I hope he knows something we don't. That maybe Jimbo, because he was a Jimbo recruit at Texas A&M. He was a number 22 player in the country in 2022. That's what I understand. And he's a 5-star quarterback. And from what he tells me, from what Will Forbes told me, that he is down there he's leaving Texas A&M. He's hit the transfer portal, and everyone at Texas A&M said he's headed to West Virginia.
So my rumors are kind of like your rumors. No one wants to commit. The person that I know probably knows won't spill the beans.
Right.
It's like someone that has a secret about your damn Christmas present won't let you know.
And they may not know. I mean, Red Baker's kind of keeping a lid on this stuff, it seems like.
It's a decision completely made, because I agree with you, Joey, because the thing of it is, it's going to be, I'm thinking 2 weeks. We're going to know in 2 weeks exactly where he's going, because the conference championships are going to be played.
Right.
And we're going to start hearing rumors, because no one flies into Morgantown Airport without some people knowing, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So,
and we got a bowl game, right? And why not? Let Chad Scott, let his team go to that bowl game, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Let this coaching staff coach this bowl game. Why not? It's their team. Why bring an outside distraction in and get teams getting ready for a bowl game? So I can understand that. So yes, maybe it could be Rich or Jimbo. By all means, it could be Jimbo, and they're not going to announce that right now. So after we find out what bowl we're going to and where we're going to play and who's going to coach it, well, we know that Chad Scott's going to coach it. All that stuff's going to have to take place before they announce this, probably.
Yeah, here's the thing. I go back to when Prime was hired at Colorado. It's going to be almost not quite that big, okay? Because Jimbo is a national name, but he's not a generational name like Dion was on, Madden 90 or 96,
Right.
like
Right.
Atlanta Braves, played in the, got on a plane and played in the World Series. So he's a different level, okay? But he's not of the coaching ilk of Jimbo Fisher. When you have a national championship, that changes everything. That national championship puts you in the top, the elite of coaching. People can piss and moan and pour water on the hot coals that his career. His career, even if he was success. I think he was successful at Texas A&M. Okay, and I don't want this show to be all about Jimbo Fisher, but people poo-poo it. He's a great coach. He's from Clarksburg. No one knows the culture unless you grew up along 79 and you have family that were in a coal mine or in a steel mill or worked in, if you don't know, you don't know. Right, Joey?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now, let's flip the script here a second. We've talked about Jimbo and everything we've heard about Jimbo. Now, here's what we all heard about Rich Rod. And this isn't no big secret that anybody can go and find this out real quick. So Rich Rod was on Pat Man Jones' show today. And Pat Man Jones, was telling him, hey, go win your conference championship. Go win that conference championship. And then pack your bags and get your ass to Morgantown. Right? And stuff. So I'm sitting there going, wow, okay, so is Rich Rod going to be the next coach? Do they know something? And Rich Rod just kind of shrugged it off, right? Of course, obviously, he's going to. That was a pretty interesting thing there. And then you got Pat McAfee, like we talked about earlier. He's out there, Rich Rod. You've got a lot of these former players, but then you have Ren Baker saying today, there comes a point, it's good to listen to all that. It's good to get out all these former players and these former coaches. And, just like he talked to Don Nealon last night. It's good to get all their perspectives, right? And to learn what everybody thinks about all these coaches that are up for this position. It's great to get all their perspective, but at some point he's got to turn all of them off and make a decision. And I'm sure as many people as there are pulling for Jimbo, there's that many people pulling for Rich Rod. And the same way when you look at all the other coaching people, even Barry Odom's probably got a lot of people in Ren Baker's ear saying, hey, you need this guy. Here's why. So at some point you have to turn it off and you've got to make a decision based on what Ren Baker said was who could run our program the best, who's going to have the best student athletes, who's going to get students to class, right? Who's going to be able to do the ins and outs and and everything of the money situation and be able to create a good budget to pay their coaches and pay all the support staff and everything like that. Who's going to be able to do all that plus be a CEO of a program? So all that comes into effect. So as much as I would like to see Jimbo Fisher there, at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me if it's Rich Rod. It wouldn't surprise me if it's Barry Odom. It wouldn't surprise me if it's somebody else. It just would not surprise me a bit. Now, there are so many people out there saying a lot of things about each one of these coaches, and there's good and there's bads with each one, right? I can remember Rich Rod at Michigan, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Michigan got some NCAA violations while Rich Rod was there about players practicing or something when it wasn't time to practice, and had them out there doing some stuff, and it wasn't supposed to be what was supposed to happen. Then he goes to Arizona, and he has some problems there. If you remember, there was a secretary or something that said that some illicit behavior happened there. So I don't know whatever happened came of all of that, but I do know there's some baggage with him. Now there's some baggage with Jimbo as well, right? So what do you want? I mean, it's like you flip a coin and you see which side it lands on if you're between them two. Or you go in a completely opposite direction. You go and grab somebody that's maybe a proven coach at a group of five, like a Barry Odom at UNLV. He's done a great job. He's done a decent job in Missouri, but he never did really get them off the ground. But but done a great job at UNLV. Do you get somebody like that, yeah, so, but everybody's got baggage. So, and he talked about that today, that I think he said it was Parker was doing the research for him and the background, the vetting of all these coaches. So it's going to be an interesting hire. I can't wait to see which way they go.
Yeah, I want to hit you up with some stats, and I know you like stats. I'm not a big stat guy, but when it comes to Vegas odds, these are the odds, and this is courtesy of our buddy Brad Smith. He posted this earlier today, so I'm just going to read straight from his article what the odds are. So leading the race to become the West Virginia Mountaineers head ball coach is Jimbo Fisher. He has the best odds at 3-2. So if you put $3 down, Joey, and he becomes a coach, you win 2. Doesn't sound like a great vote, but
right.
It's the most likely. So next, who do you think would be? Just off the top of your head, just guess.
In my opinion, it would be Barry Odom because of his ties with Ren Baker.
It's not. It's Jamie Chadwell. So like we talked about, do you go with someone who's tried and true that maybe has some baggage, but not a Boy Scout, but knows how to win games? Okay, like your Jimbo Fisher, or do you go with Jamie Chadwell, who's more of a Boy Scout, been successful? He's 47. And what is he, 21-3 over the past couple years? And what was he, 13-2 in conference play? So that's pretty good. But he's making $5 million at Liberty. So I don't think that's going to happen. I mean,
well, maybe not. But if here's your option: $5 million at West Virginia or $5 million at Liberty. $5 million to coach at a Power 5 or Power 4 program, or coach at Liberty for $5 million. Which one do you choose? I think you take the step up, especially when there's the same recruiting ground. If you think about it, Liberty is not that far from me. It's the same recruiting area, pretty much. You're going to be able to recruit pretty much the same area, whether you're a coach at Liberty or you're a coach at West Virginia. So that's where you have to look at that too. Now, would they even offer him $5 million? So that's another thing.
So what I want to say is B Bean is back. I blocked you by mistake. I had my hand put back together, so my two little fingers like to drag the keys. So I apologize. I blocked you by mistake. It's good to see you back in the chat. So
welcome back from the land of the dead, B Bean.
Yeah. So this is a name that's not familiar to me. Okay. But it seems like you would be literally, eating at the same restaurant that got you sick before. Okay.
Are you going to mention Juwan?
John Summerall. So
okay.
He's the coach at Troy, and then he moved to Tulane. He's only been Tulane for a year or two. He has a good record, but it's 4-1 odds. So if you put $4 in, you win $1. I don't know. 4-1 odds.
That's better odds than that's worse odds than
yeah. Worse odds. Next one. I like this next one.
That's actually better odds. If you're saying 4-1, then Vegas. If Vegas is putting 4-1 on it, then they're more hopeful that he's going to get it than Jimbo.
Yeah. Okay. So here we go. So so for every so here you go. For every dollar, the way it is every dollar you put on, you win $4. So the odds are, my bad. You put $1 4. I got it backwards, but
okay.
So he next guy is I'm a big fan. He runs this Army team. They run like they're painting a masterpiece. It's every player is on their assignment, even if the ball's not going that to the wide side of the field, the strong side, every kid's blocking. I mean, it's fantastic. Jeff Monken, okay, he's an Army. They're 10-1, and they were in that Notre Dame game for the first half. So
and Jeff Monken's been at Army for quite a while. He does a great job there. He would obviously not run the same offense that he would have at Army when he came to West Virginia. And so he's obviously proven to be a good coach. But, how good will he be at a team like West Virginia? And actually, I just think he fits in at Army. I think that's what it is. I think he just fits in at Army just perfect.
Well, they had, they've always run the option because you can't recruit, someone who like your Villanueva, that played for the Steelers. He was a tight end at West Point because he was thin. Because I harp on this on the show. So when they play their last football game at Army, it's usually not a bowl game. It's usually the Army-Navy game, which is coming up. They have about 4 months to make height and weight standards per the Army's guidelines, okay, the regulations. The Air Force and the Navy give them a longer time, so they can bring in monstrous guys that are 300 pounds. But you're basically putting yourself in a precarious situation if you can't commission when you graduate from the academy. So he has to do more with less. You have to have smaller guys, more athletic guys. And like It's Not Okay Golf says, you do have their little discipline. They're smart kids, but he has them playing fantastic ball. And I just really enjoy watching it. It's not that I'm a fan of Army. I'm a fan of watching great football, and that's great football.
And well, you got to remember when Neil Brown came in 2019, he had Liberty playing some really good football, and he had lesser talented guys on that roster that were out there upsetting the likes of LSU, right? Yeah. I mean, so you can't look too much into that because playing a Power 5 schedule with a Power 5 team, and you need to be able to coach a Power 5 team. And unfortunately, Neil Brown did everything right except on the football field. So I can't look too much into these group of 5 coaches. And that's how I feel. I really want a proven coach. And I know that can be hard to find. That can be really hard to find. But there's a couple of them available right now. Why not?
There's a lot available right now.
Yeah.
And, we talk about a guy you like. And tell me if I'm wrong, but Barry Odom. 7-1.
It's not that I like Barry Odom. It's just that I know that him and Ren Baker were really close. They worked together at Missouri. Ren Baker thinks a lot of Barry Odom. Barry Odom thinks a lot of Ren Baker. So if I had to flip a coin and say, okay, to me, it's between Jimbo Fisher, Rich Rodriguez, and Barry Odom. It really is. That's the 3 candidates I think, in my heart, that they're looking at right now. I know that they are going to talk to offensive coordinator at Penn State, defensive coordinator at Georgia, whatever they want to talk to. And I think those would be some great hires. I just feel like this fan base is so divided right now that a lot of them are hollering they want Jimbo Fisher, or a lot of them are hollering they want Rich Rod. The donors are the same way. A lot are hollering, let's get Jimbo. A lot are hollering, let's get Rich Rod. And then you've got Ren Baker sitting there saying, well, I know Barry Odom. I'm the one that does the hiring around here, and he's a great coach, and he is. I would not be upset about Barry Odom coming to Morgantown. It wouldn't bother me a bit. But at the same time, Ren Baker's got to weigh all this. And I wouldn't want to be in his shoes right now. But if I could trust anybody to make the right decision for the university, it's Ren Baker, because he's made 3 home run hires since he's been there in just a couple of years.
Absolutely.
Look at our basketball team and how good they are right now. Year one.
The soccer team, and the basketball team, unless you've been under a rock, okay, they went to that Atlantis tournament, and I wasn't expecting much with them laying it against Pitt. I turned it on. My jaw about hit the floor. Though the grit and the determination and the just hustle, not just Tucker, but every guy on that court looked fantastic.
Yeah, Small's the player of the nation this week.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they beat number 3 Gonzaga, and they handled them, and they handled they handled that big man they had. I mean, it was fantastic. It was really, I was just so blessed to be able to sit in my office, watch the TV, and get to watch West Virginia be competitive. 3 games in 3 nights going to overtime.
Yeah. We're glad to hear some of these comments, and I'm reading some of these comments, and a lot of you guys are spot on. So right here, we've got we need Rich Rod, a guy like him with a hard edge and the swagger to help a team get back to playing with a mean streak and with a chip on their shoulders. We do. That was talked about. I was watching something today. I think it was either On 3 or CBS Sports or something. Had a little show about that and was talking about how West Virginia is a big job. It's a good job for people because of the fan base support and how they play with a chip on their shoulder. They're always the underdog, and they like being the underdog, and they need a coach that's a proven winner, because with a proven winning coach in there, West Virginia can be an amazing team, and we could dominate the Big 12.
You know, I want a coach that I don't know if 1 minute he's going to buy me a Big Mac or if he's going to punch me in the mouth. I need someone that keeps me on my toes. You know, I want a coach like there's a little bit of fear, you know, and Rich Rod,
sure.
So.
Yeah, and you know, and I love the fact that, hey, I like the fact that Ren Baker's getting input from a lot of people, including coaches like Nick Saban and Don Nehlen. Hey, look, if there's a couple of coaches out there that know about West Virginia football and knows what it would take to build a program and knows coaching, it's Nick Saban and Don Nehlen. And those two coaches kind of having a little bit of say, a little bit of persuasion there. Makes me feel really good. It really does.
Well, here's the other thing, Joey, that we're not talking about, and everybody in the chat probably doesn't think about this. But if you're not a West Virginia guy, you're not a Jimbo Fisher, or you're not a Nick Saban, and you're a good ball coach, and you hear that Nick Saban talk highly or Jimbo Fisher wanting the job, or Rich Rod, you hear about that, you think, oh my gosh, this is. Because not many people, unless they've played in Morgantown, or, you know, it's not a town you just swing through. Like Clemson, when you drive places, you go through that town. You know, unless you're driving from Erie to like Charleston, you're not going to be driving through Morgantown. So if you don't know, I said this earlier, if you don't know, you don't know. But when Saban, Pat Mack, Pac-Man, when they're all talking highly about the Mountaineers, and I've heard sportscasters come into town. Fran Fraschillo does it. He talks highly of the Mountaineers out in basketball, but there's not a lot of bad things said about West Virginia University football, basketball, soccer, rifle, women's basketball.
Now, if you're watching any kind of shows right now, like I am, like I've been doing all day long, I've just been sitting and watching to see what people are saying. Number one, I want to hear some names that I haven't heard yet. The people that might be looking at, right? I want to hear some of those names. And I heard Juwan Cider, who's a coach, a running backs coach at Penn State, I believe, or somewhere. I heard it. So that's an interesting name. I don't know how serious that name is, but it's an interesting name, and sure, it makes me want to check him out. I like looking at that, but it's, at the same time, there's nothing bad said. I watched a show today, and they listed 7 coaches that have been fired this year already, and they went from 7 to 1 as far as best job or worst job to best job, right? And they started out with the worst job, and I can't remember who it was. I think it was FAU, might be the worst job, and then they went through. And West Virginia was the best job. And that was over North Carolina, who was number 2.
Yeah.
So, you know, West Virginia's got a great program here. And think about it. Who else could get Jimbo Fisher? Who else would Jimbo Fisher, as Jimbo's making a push for this job? And you know he is. He is. He's not come out and said, I'm not interested at all. And everybody's talking about Jimbo Fisher wanting his job. And everybody's been saying he's wanting it. And he's not come out and said he's not. And nothing was said today from Ren Baker that Jimbo's not interested or whatever. So there's not too many teams out there at all that Jimbo Fisher would take a job with. I do not believe there would be at this point. There's nobody out there. But West Virginia, he's interested. And that should make every Mountaineer feel really proud and really happy. Number one, that one of our own, right? That one, a West Virginia boy that is a proven coach and a national championship winner and has national championship rings on his hand, a couple of them, as a matter of fact. That should tell us that, hey, we must have a pretty daggone good program. So don't listen to these pundits out there that are saying, hey, that's not a real good job and you can't win there. That's Dana Holgorsen lovers. You can win at West Virginia, and West Virginia is a great job. I looked at Pittsburgh Steelers. You see that they're coming down and using the facilities at West Virginia University because they're better than the Pittsburgh Steelers facilities. So don't let anybody tell you that West Virginia don't have the facilities to recruit and get players either. Right. They've got some of the best facilities in the country. When the Pittsburgh Steelers come down and use them because it's better than theirs, we've got some pretty daggone good facilities, guys. So I'm really excited about this. I think we have a chance right now to pounce and get our name thrown in the hat so that next season here's what I want. I want the Vegas heads. I want all the little minds there in Vegas who are sitting there making these odds. I want them next year to go, holy shit, we're down to West Virginia, and I don't know if they're going to win 8 games or 11 games this year. I don't know if we can put them back down there at 6.5 again. Because now they've got Jimbo, or now they've got Rich Rod, or now they got Barry Odom. I want them to be sitting there scratching their head and wondering, where do we put them? Because we don't want to lose too much money. And right. That would make me really happy. Just scare the Vegas people to death. And we got a chance to get a big name coach. Why not?
Yeah, Bill O'Brien had a Boston College team that was weak as hell, playing some good ball at the beginning of the season. I watched some of those Boston College. I watched Boston College and Michigan State, and that was a hell of a ball game earlier in the season. So, Joey, it's not a bad place to be. I know hindsight would rather, but I've said this yesterday. I'll say it today. You almost want a plug and play guy, and Curt Cignetti would have been the freaking lottery ticket. Okay, last year, if Brown would have got fired, I think Curt would have ended up in Morgantown. Now, let me tell you why.
I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not sure about that.
No, you're not sure?
No, I'm really not.
But I'll tell you what.
Not anything bad on Curt. I'm just saying, some history, some past, some things. I don't know that would happen, to be honest with you.
But it would have been a great find because he took Indiana and they literally beat the hell. The last game, they scored 60 points. He's been a good story to follow this year. And he took his players from James Madison, and they all transferred with him. That seemed to be the theme now to be successful. If you're coaching now, you take some of your key players with you.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, there's going to be players that leave our program and go wherever Neil goes. And I just feel that that's going to happen. And albeit, hey, listen, hats off to them. They signed for a head coach in Neil Brown. And if they leave, I wish them nothing but the best. There's nothing on them at all. That I wish them nothing but the best. I hope they stay. I hope they do. But at the same time, I understand. And they want to stay with a coach that they feel comfortable with, right? I think that's why this hire is really important too, though, because you got to bring a coach in that these players are going to relate to. Now, you're sitting there on West Virginia's bench right now, right? Let's say you're a 4-star athlete that's maybe not got the field this year, but you're promised. You're a promising star, an upcoming star. And next year is going to be your year, right? You're a sophomore, and you're going to get the field next year, and stuff. Who do you feel more comfortable with? You felt comfortable with Neil Brown. Do you feel more comfortable if we brought in Jimbo Fisher, or do you feel more comfortable if we bring in Rich Rod, or do you feel more comfortable if we bring in Barry Odom? That's where Win Baker's going to have to measure that too. He's going to have to read the team, see what they kind of think, what their thoughts are, and this is good. These coaching decisions are tough. and they're expensive. You're talking about rebranding and remodeling a whole football program at the Power 5 level. This is not like you're rebuilding UMass right now. Nothing against UMass. UMass is a great program, and I hope Neil Brown does get that job there, either there or Appalachian State or somewhere like that. But this is a Power 4 program that you're rebuilding. You got support staff on top of support staff on top of support staff that are all Neil Brown hires. They're all there for people for Neil Brown. Now you're rebuilding everything. You're restructuring. You're paying these assistants and these coaches off and getting them out of their contracts to bring in new people. It's expensive to hire a new coach. So it's important to get it right, because you can't keep doing this every couple of years. We're not Texas A&M. We're not, as much as we want to be. We might be as far as winning and stuff like that. But as far as being on the same level as Texas A&M or Texas or Oklahoma, we are not. And that's where we have to get a coaching hire right. And I thought 6 years ago we had it right with Neil Brown. I thought that was a great hire. And, things just didn't work out. So let's hope that this coach can make something happen, because West Virginia can't afford to change again here in 3 or 4 years. It just can't do it.
I wasn't so excited about Neil Brown as I was, as I am now, because we had a coach coming from Troy. Now, we don't have a coach right now. I mean, it's not like, but if they hire someone who's coming from, let's say, a Tony Gibson or someone like that, then I'll have probably about the same feelings I did about Coach Brown. But when they're talking about, Jimbo Fisher, and they're talking about Rich Rod, and they're talking about some big names, some successful coaches, that does get you, fired up, because, they're talking about it in the press. They're talking about it on talk shows. They're talking about it on YouTube. And that, I didn't really get that 6 years ago. Maybe I wasn't looking, maybe I was missing it. But
Chad Atkins said, you don't hire someone who left that took legal action against your school. True to a sense. All right, so here's why. Here's why I say to a sense. Number one, you've got to sometimes let bygones be bygones, because it is a business, right? A business is business. If I run a Kroger's, for instance, if I'm a manager of a Kroger's, and I have an employee with me that does just an amazing job. I mean, he just does a fantastic job, and he's out there stocking aisles. But he comes to me and says, hey, I need a raise, or I'm going to go to A&P down the road. A&P's offered me a job, and they've offered me $3 more an hour. And I can't give him the $3 an hour, and he goes. I can't really hold it against him. Now, so there's business aspect of this. There's a business side of this you have to look at. So you have to sometimes let bygones be bygones. Was it real pretty when Rich Rod left? No. But it wasn't pretty in the fans' eyes. And it wasn't pretty in the West Virginia Mountaineers' eyes either, just simply because so many donors were pissed off. Administration wasn't happy. And they took him to court just as much as he took us to court and stuff. Now, you have to just realize that's business. That wasn't nothing personal. And people took it personal. Fans took it personal. Fans started threatening his parents. I mean, my gosh, guys, don't get this stuff personal. Look, Neil Brown is a true gentleman, and his tweet today, if nobody read that today, be sure you bring that up. I'm not going to read it, because I'll be honest with you, I like Neil Brown, I really do, and it kind of will make you bring you to tears by the time you finish reading it. It's really good.
That's why people are high on him, and he's going to find a job. And when he finds a job,
business is business, and Neil Brown was able to separate the business end of this, and realize, hey, the fans are just fans. They're passionate. They want to win football. I don't blame them. And that's exactly how he's always been. He doesn't blame us for wanting to win football games. He doesn't blame us. He doesn't blame me. He doesn't get mad at me when I come on here and say, Neil Brown probably should be fired, or Neil Brown needs to be fired. We need to find a coach that can get a win. That didn't make him mad. What made him mad is that he didn't get that win to make me come on here and say, daggone, we need to keep Neil Brown. We need to give him an extension. That's what made him mad.
Yeah.
Because Neil Brown's a class act. So I really like Neil Brown.
I do too. I'm going to talk about these next two comments here real quick, Joey. So Pat McAfee makes buku money. I mean, he makes enough money that he's given away $200,000 to a kid that misses or makes a field goal.
There ain't nobody in the country. There's nobody in the country that could afford to hire Pat McAfee as their head coach.
You make too much money having too much fun. Now, here's a good one. Toledo's coach, my goodness. He's a younger guy. I think he's younger than me. I don't know how old is he. How old do you think he is? He's probably in his early 40s. But,
he's a young guy.
Yeah,
an up and comer, and it may be that if he was to get the job, he could be a great coach at West Virginia, but we don't know. It's nothing there there's nothing there to measure that by, in my opinion.
Yeah. So Brown brought stability to a whirlwind. That is so true. Now, when I did the thumb, Joey, I was gonna try to do something about stability. Okay. Because I think the program is in a better place. Okay. Now you're gonna have transition. You're gonna have turnover. Okay. But that isn't as bad as it used to be. That's the nature of the beast. And here's the caveat here. Hear me out. If you were to have huge turnover 4 or 5 years ago, your staff would be freaking the hell out. But wait, now you usually have some 1 or 2, 3 people, maybe 4, that do nothing but handle the portal. So you're prepared. Now with a Jimbo or a coach that's not currently coaching, they don't have that support staff. But I know Rich Rod has some folks that are working the portal, know the players that are out there, and can fill that void. Case in point, now we're going to talk about basketball, but Ren Baker picked a coach in DeVries that is able to kind of, test those waters. He was able to pull players, and it doesn't take as long as we thought it did because we're the old hats. We're thinking it's going to take years of development. No, you have to be able to manipulate that portal. Now I'm talking about basketball. DeVries manipulated that portal like a conductor in a symphony because he has Tucker playing the trombone. He has Smalls playing the trumpet, and they're just in step and they're taking care of business. Football-wise, they have probably even bigger staff. I'm just concerned if you bring a coach that's been out for a year or two, that a year or two, these past 2 years is like 10 years, 10 years ago. Okay. You know what I'm saying? It's just a different animal now. And I pray that if Jimbo Fisher is hired, he can pick up what the NIL is putting down and be as successful as his counterparts. That's all. That's my rant.
I see a lot here talking about, all these former players. We've seen Pat McAfee's name come up. I've seen Owen Schmidt's name there come up. I've seen Eugene Napoleon's name come up earlier. All those are great, but here's why you don't hire former players, in my opinion. Now, you do hire former players in some regards, right? But you need those guys for support staff. You need them guys to just be able to come in and help with recruiting and it's great. I think it's always great that Stedman Bailey wants to be a coach at Western University. I think that's awesome. And I think he can do a fantastic job of coaching at Western University. But it's even better to have him to be a support staff for Western University. It's even better to have Pat McAfee for a support staff or Pat Man Jones as support staff. You don't want these guys to come in and coach the team. For the simple reason, they're already part of the program. They're already there. Their names are already all over the place, anywhere you go in Morgantown. And, to bring in other people, you bring in a Jimbo Fisher who's got a name in college football in general, and then you have him supported by or a Rich Rod, right? And you have him supported by Pat McAfee and Owen Schmidt and all those guys and Pat Weiss and Steve Slayton, because they're going to get behind whoever the coach is. Bottom line, they are.
Right.
They may a lot of them are going to be talking about Rich Rod, but the problem is that's the players that we know that you guys know that you've grown up with, all right? But they're players that I hear about, players from some of these older players and stuff. They're looking at this in a different picture, and they're saying, okay, Rich Rod was good, but we don't want him back in Morgantown, right? And you talk about some of these older players, and I'm talking older players. I'm not talking about the players under Rich Rod. All those want Rich Rod back. The rest of them want Jimbo, right? Or a lot of them want Jimbo, or even somebody else.
Here's the thing with Rich Rod. I was not on board with Rich Rod. If you'd asked me 6 months ago, I'd say no. 100% no. And I'll tell you why. Rich Rod looked kind of spotty. Like he had a good year at Arizona, then had a down year. He's been up and down. But he took a team that was just pillaged in Jackson State. After Deion Sanders left that program, took all the stars with him, I thought that was a terrible move for him going there to coach, because I'm like, there's no way he's going to win.
Well, look, Rich Rod didn't do a bad job at Arizona either. He won 7 or 8 games nearly every year, and he also played for a Pac-12 championship. So, it's not that he did a bad job at Arizona at all.
They ran him out, but so he was up and down. I thought at Arizona, he didn't do well at Michigan, but he was up and down at Arizona. Then he landed Jackson State. I'm like, how is he going to turn this around? No, he kept the momentum going from Deion Sanders. That's hard to do, because that momentum, it wasn't just creeping along. It was a rocket. They went from not having facilities, from not having a workout area, to they literally, Deion Sanders built that at Jackson. He built that program up. And I think Rick did a hell of a job. And he's still, I hope, Coach Rod, I hope you win that conference championship.
Hey, hats off to Jacksonville State, because they're actually putting some money into their football program. They're hiring coaches, and it's being proven that that's a perfect example right there of hire a coach, a proven coach, and you can build something, right? Jacksonville State has done that twice. Look where they are at now. They've proved it, that you can build with a proven coach. So that's where I'm okay if we end up hiring Rich Rod again. I'm okay with it. Look, bygones are bygones. I didn't like. If you'd have asked me in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, all the way up to 2018, when we hired Neil Brown, if you just said Rich Rod maybe come back to Morgantown, I would have went off the deep end about it.
I would have punched him out.
But now I'm looking at it as, okay, this is a business. And especially today, this is more of a business than it's ever been in the past. There is a lot to maneuver here. You've got NIL, but you've got the transfer portal, and all that stuff is business related. And you need somebody that can be a CEO and navigate all that. And those three, you need a proven coach like a Jimbo Fisher or a Rich Rodriguez. And that's why I'm really high on it. I don't want them getting this job. I'm really high on Jimbo doing it, because Jimbo navigated that NIL like it was a cakewalk at Texas A&M, right? I mean, he had #1 recruiting class for years down there. He's done a really good job. And people say, well, he didn't win with it. Well, so what? He was in the SEC. You wouldn't beat Nick Saban every year either. You're not going to beat Georgia, LSU, Alabama, Florida. Those teams are just they are the cream of the crop. And you're at Texas A&M. And now there's Texas in there and Oklahoma's in there. There's 2 schools that are even bigger than Texas A&M. So it's not like he was at a program that is just proven to win 10, 11, 12 games every single year. They're not. It's Texas A&M.
Yeah.
All they ever did was win 8, 9, 10 games. Sure, they've gotten that championship. Sure, they've had great years. So has West Virginia, for that matter. So is just about every team in the country had great years. Texas A&M is not. They're not no better right now than they were under Jimbo Fisher, in my opinion. They're no better.
No, I don't think they are. I don't think they are, guys. I think in the chat, I want to make sure I'm right here. I'm looking it up, so bear with me.
I know that Rich Rod, Pat Jones asked him today, how, you're 61 years old. How much longer do you think you can coach? And he said, I can got 10 years for sure. He said, Nick Saban, he was 72. I know I can go till I'm 71. That's 10 years. And that's about all you can ask of a coach is to be able to give you anywhere from 6 to 10 years, right? You want 6 to 10 years with a coach is what I would think. Oh, you really want 30 years of the coach, right? But there's not too many 20, 30 years, but there's not too many Jimbo Fishers or not Jimbo Fishers, Bill Sliders and John Nealons and stuff out there right now. There's just not any of those anymore. It's too much of a business now. There's too much money involved. When Don Nealon was coaching, he made hundreds of thousands a year. Nowadays, if you offer to coach Don Nealon's salary from 2000, he'd laugh at you. And that's any coach that's a high school coach coming into college football. He would laugh at you with a Don Nealon salary from 2000. So you have to realize that this business has moved on from all that. You have to pay these coaches. And so therefore if you want a good coach, you better be ready, because I don't care who they name as a head coach. There's going to be some money that's got to come in here. And that means we've got to have assistants too. And look, if you like the hire, and I hope you do, whoever it might be, no matter how bad you might think it might be, support the hire and support the person. We got to support the Mountaineers and join Country Roads Trust. Bottom line, that's what I would encourage you to do. Join Country Roads Trust and let's support the program and support the coaching hire and everything like that. So, you can join Country Roads Trust for $18 a month. As little as $18 a month. So,
yeah, it's the pivotal point for West Virginia. And I misspoke. Dion was at Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson
State. Jacksonville State, Jackson State. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it's okay. But Jacksonville State went out and hired Rich Rod, and that wasn't a cheap hire, and it proved that they're trying to do something. And here they are going to play for a conference championship. And if Rich Rod is named the next head coach at West Virginia, look for them to go out and hire him another really good coach out there right now. Look for them to even offer a Jimbo Fisher. I mean, seriously, I wouldn't be surprised. Why they would have to make the call, would they not? They would have to make the call.
They would have to. They would have to do that. So, and I just think it's really important to know that, you have a program that hasn't been successful and hasn't been playing at that level. Rich Rod goes in. Now, here's the thing. We're talking about Rich Rod. I don't think he's going to get hired. I really don't. I think Jimbo has a better chance. But, this is going to have the same, like Eric Saab said, this is going to have a similar feel to when they hired Don Nealon and invested heavily in the program. Yep. Yeah.
I agree. And we did. We had a new stadium being built. Don Nealon come in 1980. We had the new stadium there ready to go for him. We was putting a lot of money into our program. Just a few years later, we built the indoor facility. That was all backed by Don Nealon. Don Nealon worked really hard, and I don't know how many people in here can remember it if you're old enough. But Don Nealon went to the state, and he went to every corner of the state, raising money to build an indoor practice facility. And the university invested in it. And then, and the university has continued to invest in the program. The problem is, I think they've invested in the program to a great deal, and I think that's fantastic. They've got to invest in the coaches now. It's time to invest in the coaches. You can't keep giving your head coach a $4 million coaching allowance, because he can't hire a good. You these days, an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator are going to take up $4 million. They just are. It's going to be gone if you want a good one. So
Eric Saab makes, what I think the nail in the coffin wasn't the Texas Tech blowout. I mean, they got blown out when they went to Lubbock, but it was having, I don't even know if they had 20,000, Eric. I'm a season ticket holder. I didn't go. I'm not going to sit in the rain and watch a mediocre Mountaineer team when I can watch them on TV and get stuff done around the house. So,
right.
but Tony Gibson. I want, in the chat, Gary asked about Tony Gibson. I think Tony Gibson's a hell of a coach, but they need someone to bring them to like the next level. And I don't think Tony Gibson has the resume to do that. I might be wrong, but they're going to have somebody that has some Power 5 experience, and I think coaching at Troy, Liberty might, Jamie might be a good coach coming from Liberty, but like we said, he's making $5 million there. So it's going to have to be a big name because it's as much marketing now as it is anything. Because with the name comes prestige, with prestige comes NIL money, with the NIL money comes recruits. So it's like, I think back
and like
to,
you said too, you much rather watch the game at home on TV. And that's, I don't know about you, you're not that far away, but I'm 3 hours away from Morgantown one way. So I drive 3 hours to Morgantown to watch a game. And yes, you're right. Neil Brown, I do have a good time when I go up there, and I love tailgating and everything. But I feel a lot better riding home 3 hours after a win than I do after a loss.
It's not the 2-hour drive there. It's a 2-hour drive back. So, like, literally at the Penn State game, guys, I crap you not. My kid had usually they play Friday nights because there's not a lot of refs. They played on Saturday night. That happened to be his first varsity game was Penn State night. So Penn State they played Penn State, West Virginia played Penn State. What was it, noon or 1 o'clock, whatever it was. I left at halftime because after that fumble that they recovered on the goal line, and then they lost the ball because they snapped it over the quarterback's head. Garrett Green lost it twice on 2 different series. I was so frustrated, and I could just feel, I was just palpable. I could just feel zero energy. And I knew this game was just going to be a huge disappointment. Looked like it was going to rain. I'm like, let's pack it in and drive home. Because guess what? It's not the drive there because you're excited and there's hope. It's the drive home when you're just like, wait a second. This is not what I thought the Mountaineers were going to look like. Right. Dose of reality that this Mountaineer team was worse than the year before. And
I'll be right back, Shane. Go ahead.
So to close that out, so not only it was worse, what you got to sell, Eric and Tim and Not Okay Golf, it's the hope. It's the hope. And consistency and hope really brings some kids in. Now, I've interviewed parents of Division I players, and the one thing that they all tell me on what gets them, to sign on the dotted line, it's not the facilities. Kind of helps. The swag, it's important. It's consistency, and is that coach going to be able to bring up that player and elevate his perceived value for the NIL, and also get playing time, developing him as a player, as a young man, all those things. But stability. And you have an older coach who, this might be their last run, Jimbo Fisher, Rich Rod. They're not looking for this to be the next step. That's the problem that Ren Baker faces. Ren Baker faces the problem that an up-and-coming coach might use West Virginia as a stepping stone to a Division I SEC school or a Big Ten school. I'm just being honest. That's the situation. Todd, can I get an amen? So, Joey, what I said is, West Virginia, if you hire an up-and-coming coach, you're setting yourself up for failure because they're gonna move on. It's like an older guy with money marrying a young, hot young gal.
Let me ask everybody a question. Let me ask everybody a question, and you too, Shane. Let's say we do hire Rich Rodriguez. Let's say we hire him and he comes back, and we go 10-2 2 years in a row, and all of a sudden you start hearing rumors. Texas A&M's talking to Rich Rodriguez, Texas, Oklahoma, whoever talking to Rich Rodriguez. are you going to be comfortable as a fan with Rich Rod back in Morgantown, knowing that he bolted on your happy ass one time? Do you want to take a chance on that? Now, same scenario with Jimbo Fisher. I don't think Jimbo Fisher would leave. You give Jimbo this job, Jimbo goes 10-2 a couple years in a row, and I don't care who calls him. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he would stay. Other coaches, I'm not sure. I think if he wants stability, if he can turn out to have winning programs in Morgantown, right? I think if you want stability, you have to go with Jimbo Fisher for that reason. Because if you have a Rich Rod, even if Rich Rod doesn't plan on leaving, how discouraged would the fan base be hearing all of that stuff? You know what I'm saying? How excited would you be as a fan to know that Oklahoma needs a head coach, and here's Rich Rodriguez, who's went 10-2 in Morgantown, and all of a sudden his name's being mentioned in Oklahoma? You would be really, oh my God. And then you would be like, you'd be getting on X, you'd be getting on YouTube, and everything else we'd be talking about. Well, he bolted on our ass once, he's liable to do it again, and all of a sudden we're creating negativity around the program, and it could be bad. I worry about stuff like that. I worry about, that's why I'm really, I would lean more Jimbo than Rich Rod. I lean more Jimbo than anybody else right now, because yes, you hire a Barry Odom from UNLV, and he comes to Morgantown, and let's say he wins a Big 12 championship and goes 10-2 a couple of years or something, and gets in football playoffs for a couple of years. All of a sudden, you're going to start hearing his names mentioned at other schools, right? He was already a coach at Missouri, but let's just say he starts getting mentions from schools bigger than West Virginia, or even schools smaller than West Virginia, but they're in the Big Ten or the SEC, where the coaches are paid more money. So you have to worry about that. But see, Jimbo Fisher's already been there and done that. He don't need that anymore.
Jimbo Fisher's like Scrooge McDuck. He's sitting on a pile of money. He's playing. He's going to be coaching for. Well, he misses it. He said himself, you can only hunt and fish so much. So he's competitive. He's playing for more than money. He's playing for the fact that this is the team he grew up watching. His papa, his mama, his whatever, his uncle down the road. I don't know. But he's playing because he is a West Virginian. Now, Rich Rod is a West Virginian, but I don't think he's a viable option. I don't think it's going to happen. It's great for a talking point. It'd be nice if he came back. That's great. But I don't think he's a viable option. But he doesn't have. I mean, he's not broke or anything, but he's not making money sitting at home hunting fishing like Jimbo is. Right. But with that being said, I wanted to close the show out with us talking a little bit about the bowl. And, there are some interesting bowls here. I'll answer this question before we go on. Why would you want Rich Rod again? He left for the Hydro. Absolutely. I mean, I don't feel the same way I did before about Rich Rod, okay, because he's had that success at that smaller tier school. But I think, as Eric said, West Virginia can do better. And Ren Baker's not a garage sale type of guy. He's not going to the garage sales looking for stuff. And he's not, Rich Rod has that tape on him. You know that tape when you buy something at a yard sale, you have to rub to get off?
Yeah.
Rich Rod sticky on him. Can't have
he's the Rich Rod is that ex you broke up with, and then she comes begging back to you, and you take her back, and you're like, damn, what did I do that for? It's
right.
like
yeah. Well, the bowls we have here, boys, girls, guys, I'm going to tell you, for 6-16, West Virginia is going to be playing looks like they might be playing some talented opponents. Well, they have right now, this is per MSN, the Action Network has the Birmingham Bowl, West Virginia versus Arkansas. That would
interesting matchup. Interesting matchup.
Athlon Sports, Independence Bowl, Army. I don't think
that's what I'm afraid of. That's what I said. We're going to end up playing Army. I just feel like
we're going to get our lunch. Yeah. CBS Sports, the Birmingham Bowl, Arkansas. Okay. College Football Network, the Serve Pro First Responder Bowl, Boston College. That would be a hell of a game.
Yeah,
But
you think back, Boston College, what was it? First game of the year, they upset Notre Dame. Come out, they were on fire for a few games there, and then they just fell apart for a while.
yeah, they lost to Michigan State, or I think they beat Michigan State. I watched that game. I can't remember if they won or lost, but they looked good. Another person on CBS or College Football News has the First Responder Bowl versus Sam Houston. That would be a big letdown for me. So we have two different folks at ESPN. Both of them have gone the Radiance Technology Bowl, the AK Independence Bowl, playing Louisiana. Both of them have picked them playing Louisiana, not Louisiana State, but Louisiana. The Sporting News, okay, has West Virginia playing in the Armed Forces Lockheed Martin Bowl versus Virginia Tech. Oh,
that would be the bowl matchup I'd want.
Me too. And this one doesn't even look too bad. Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl versus East Carolina.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how you are as a fan. Now, as a Mountaineer fan, I'm going to be excited about them being in a bowl game. But as a fan, I can't get that excited about bowl games anymore because so many players anymore just set out, or the transfer portal comes open before the games and they leave, and then you're stuck at playing a bowl game without happy players. Anymore, the bowl picture is just gotten so ugly that I think if networks want to continue these bowl games and have viewers, something needs to be done about this transfer portal opening up and players leaving, about players setting out. All that something needs to happen there. There needs to be some NIL deals written up that says, hey, you got to play in every game that season, including the bowl game, if you're healthy. If you got a broken leg, I understand. But, come on, you've got to play your bowl game. But there's so many players that set out, and I hate that. That's what's got me so disinterested in bowls now. Except for playoffs.
I am a college football whore. Give it to me when and whenever I can get it. I'll watch it. I will sit there like.
Well, sure, I will too. It's great. It's great to see different players, right? I enjoyed the North Carolina game last year, and I'll be honest. I knew we was going to win the game, and we did. We dominated North Carolina, but North Carolina did have a lot of players sitting out. I enjoyed the game because I enjoyed seeing what kind of talent North Carolina had up and coming, and I knew that they didn't look that good. So I was able to judge them. I was able to get a gain of perspective on what I thought North Carolina would be this year, basically from that bowl game, because so many players played in that bowl game that were going to be starting this year for North Carolina. And so I like that aspect of it, and seeing some new players and some players getting to come off the bench and play. But hell, they got to do that anyway in bowl games generally. Unless you're in a huge bowl, generally all your players play in a bowl game.
This Tim hits the nail on the head, and I'm going to close the show with this. So as long as they win, and I think Neil Brown left, even though he had just barely a winning record, he did leave a winner, because you have guys like this offensive line commit for West Virginia that Michigan tried to come in and snatch, and his name is Evan Powell. The Evan Powell decommitted, okay, and several other players are sticking with West Virginia. So the Eden Buchanan is a defensive lineman who's staying with the Mountaineers, because I feel the culture is better than it's been in 20 years. The atmosphere, the kids love Coach Brown. They love the program. And I think the attrition is going to be the same as what it would be during just regular offseason. You might lose one or two more kids, but the upside is better. And I wish Neil Brown all the best. He came on the show You interviewed him, Joey. He's a class act. I would have a beer with him and eat a burger. And I wish him and his family the best. Any program that gets him is going to be lucky. I think he just needs a little bit of luck on the field, and maybe things will turn the corner for him. But the Mountaineers are moving on to greener pasture, and I want to thank everybody.
And getting a coach that especially year one, can go to that transfer portal and pull some players, because obviously we're going to lose some recruits and we're going to lose some players off this team. So we need a coach that knows how to maneuver this transfer portal so that we don't have a big drop off next year. I already expect that, next year is probably not going to be the greatest year in the history of West Virginia football. But at the same time, I still want to go bowling next year. So
me too. And Eric Saab, alligators are angry. Mama says alligators are angry because they have all them teeth and no toothbrush.
Yeah.
So with that, I want to thank Joey for popping back on the show. I love it. This is becoming a habit, and it's a habit you're going to have to continue because I miss you. This is good times. And, we have a lot to talk about coming up this week. I'm going to try to do a show here Thursday. I've only been doing one show a week because, life happens. We get busy. But, guys, once again, stay tuned. We have an idea who it is. We have a feeling, but we just can't talk about our feelings because we try to be somewhat factual on here, even though I screwed up the Jackson State. That's my bad. I've
done that before too, though. I think we all have.
But thanks, Kelly. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Hit all your chats before we leave. But hey, let's go Mountaineers, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, and hire Jimbo Fisher.
Hire Jimbo Fisher. Absolutely.
I've got an itch I can't scratch, I'm missing a piece that completes a whole part of me, an open wound scar to see. Everybody come here, gather round, welcome to the freak show, the best in town. What the hell's wrong with me? I don't get along with anybody, honestly. I've been living in my own head, constantly thoughts jumbled round, think I need a new lobotomy. Wait, all these thoughts are too negative. I don't wanna get lost in the sedative. Gotta show them what I got, I'm competitive. You know I'm about to go off, I won't let them win, I'll take